girl sound. Let's talk about books, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the good things and the cool things we can read. Let's talk about books. Let's talk about books. Let's talk about books, baby. Let's talk about 343. Let's talk about all the cool things and the dope things we can read. Let's talk about books. Let's talk about books. Let's talk about books. Let's talk about books. Hey there, welcome back to the Free Black Women's Library YouTube channel. Thanks so much for clicking on the video. Thanks so much for liking the video. Thanks so much for subscribing to my channel. Welcome back, y'all. Welcome back to the antics of the Free Black Women's Library and another episode of 343. In these videos, I talk about 3 books that have similar themes, similar characters, tackle similar questions, all fall under a similar subgenre. So the theme for the 3 books I'm talking about today is Black Girls in Love. That's right, y'all. Black girls in love, black girls being loved. We love to see it. I'm talking about 3 YA novels perfect for ages 12 and up that feature black teenage girl characters being fully human, being loved, being smart, being funny, being interesting, being quirky, being adventurous, challenging ideas, opening up and blossoming into their womanhood. It's a beautiful thing. We love to see it. Yes! So, the first book I'm talking about, I actually don't have a physical copy of because I think somebody borrowed it and never gave it back, but that's fine. That's fine. The name of the book is Poet X. Poet X is the debut novel of a brilliant writer named Elizabeth Acevedo. Elizabeth Acevedo is from New York City, and so is her main character, Xiomara. Xiomara lives uptown with her brother and her mom, and she's growing into herself. It's that moment when you're like not yet a child, but not fully a woman. That's where she's at. Her body's developing, she's having feelings, she's having attraction, and she's trying to figure out who she is, right? She has a crush on a boy named Anan in school, and he's into her too. So the feeling is mutual, and their relationship blossoms in a really sweet and innocent way. There's no manipulation, there's no toxicity, there's no danger, there's no trauma, right? They communicate with each other in a way that feels authentic, in a way that feels real, in a way that feels honest, and I absolutely loved it. I enjoyed it deeply. One of the things about this book that I really, really loved is the fact that the entire book is written in verse. So it is one long, gorgeous poem. And let me tell y'all, when I got to the very last word of this book, I sighed deeply, and I kind of teared up a little bit because I was so deeply touched by Xiomara's story. Maybe because it really resonated with me, the fact that she's being raised by a mom that is very conservative, very religious, very kind of traditional in terms of the way she thinks a girl should behave, the way she thinks a woman should act. You know, she's placing Xiomara in this box, and Xiomara's like, trying to bust out of that thing because it's confining and it's not in alignment with who she is, right? Xiomara is a poet. Xiomara is a deep thinker. Xiomara is righteous, you know? Xiomara is honest, and she is vocal, and she's trying to do her thing on the poetry scene, and she's incredibly talented. So there's some cultural conflict between the two of them, and I think that whole thing about being the child of somebody who is not from this country and the culture of your parents and the culture that you are immersed in kind of collide and are not in sync at all. So there's that. There's that vibe of, you know, I don't want you to be like these other teenage girls out here wilding out and acting up. This is not our way. This is not our heritage. This is not what happens within the type of household where we are, okay? So, you know, they go back and forth, and I actually did kind of cry a little bit during the parts where her and her mom had their major arguments. But I won't give too much away. I will say that it is just a beautifully written story. Siyomada's brother is going through his own conflict, and that's handled really, really well. And the relationship between her and the boy she likes is really well written. All in all, highly recommend. It won multiple awards. It was a bestseller. It would probably make an incredible film. Just 10 out of 10 for Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo. Now, the second book I'm talking about is called The Sun is Also a Star. I have a physical copy of this one. It's written by a woman named Nicola Yoon. Nicola Yoon is also the best-selling author of a book called Everything, Everything. And The Sun is Also a Star takes place in New York City. The Sun is Also a Star is about a girl named Natasha and a boy named Daniel. Now, unlike Poet X, where we get to hear the story mainly from Siyomada's point of view, in The Sun is Also a Star, we get to hear the story from both Daniel and Natasha's point of view. So the story flips back and forth as far as like who's narrating. We hear things in Daniel's voice and we hear things in Natasha's voice. Now, Daniel is Korean, Natasha is Jamaican, right? So once again, we have this idea of like children of immigrants and that culture conflict, that culture clashing, that old school way of thinking and feeling as far as like how kids should be and how kids should behave, and race and, you know, spirituality. Like there's all of these different things that are brought to the surface and brought to the table when you have these kind of you know, the situation where you have somebody who, you have like a non-American, right, raising a child in America. And you have these moments where it's like you look at your kid and you're thinking, oh my God, my kid like wouldn't, if I was raising this kid in the place where I was born, they wouldn't be able to do the things they're doing. Like they wouldn't talk to me the way they're talking to me right now. They wouldn't be acting up the way they're acting up. So there's that stuff, you know. And there's also the racial conflict and the racial tension as far as moments between Daniel and Natasha. So Natasha's family is about to get deported, right? They're being pushed out. They're being sent back to Jamaica, but Natasha doesn't want to leave. Like, America's her home, New York is her home, New York is what she knows, and she's trying to figure out a way to stop this from happening. And The Sun is Also a Star is one of those stories where you have a whole bunch of different things all shoved into one day, a whole bunch of different actions. You know, it's New York City, so they spend the day riding the subway. They go to Harlem, they go downtown, they go to Queens, and she's just trying to make this plan happen, right? She's devoted, she's stubborn, she's determined, and Daniel is completely smitten, so he's like, I'm gonna help you. So, you know, they meet, they fall for each other quick, and there's some parts that are really, really funny, and at the end of the day, it was another one of these books where when I got to the very last page and the very last word on that very last page, I was kind of like, you know, I just gave it like a nice hug, took a deep breath, and let out a sigh, because it was just very romantic, it was very innocent, it was very sweet, and it was well done. And also, I think part of why the story resonated with me is that whole like riding the subways thing, trying to get things done, trying to run errands, and there are days when you just spend your whole day on the subway trying to make something happen. At the end of it all, maybe you made it happen. At the end of it all, maybe all you did was ride the subway all day long. And it's another one of those things where you meet somebody randomly and you just fall for them quick. Like there's just something that happens that just like turns you on and gets you excited and makes you want to be around them forever. So that's the story of Natasha and Daniel. highly, highly recommend. The third book I'm going to talk about is called The Stars and the Blackness Between Them. Now, The Stars and the Blackness Between Them is by a woman named Janata Petrus, and it is awesome, just like the other two. I actually did a long form video about this book. It is the first video that I made for my channel, and I'm going to link it in the description box below in case you want to hear more of my thoughts, more detailed thoughts about The Stars and the Blackness Between Them. I absolutely love. Now, similar to The Sun is Also a Star, The Stars and the Blackness Between Them tells the story from two different characters' point of view. 16-year-old Audrey, who is from Trinidad, and 16-year-old Mabel, who is from Minneapolis. Now, these two girls meet, and their friendship blossoms into a deep, beautiful connection, a deep, beautiful relationship. So this is a queer love story. We love to see it. And it's so beautifully written, just like the first two. It's very poetic, it's very sweet, it's very endearing, and these characters are awesome. And once again, similar to the first two characters, Natasha and Xiomara, Audrey and Mabel are dealing with their own internal conflicts. They're dealing with their own growth. They're dealing with having these deep, powerful attractions to another person and navigating that space, that unfamiliar territory, that new space, that kind of scary, vulnerable space. And they do it with so much grace and so much love and so much consideration and so much intention. And it's awesome. So Mabel is going through something and Audrey is going through something. I won't say anything more than that because spoilers, spoilers, spoilers. Don't want to spoil it for you. But what they're going through is deep and impactful on its own, in addition to the fact of them falling in love with each other. So I will say this, I really appreciate these stories where we get to see not only Black teenage girls being fully human, being multidimensional characters, being adventurous, challenging stereotypes and challenging like ideas around Black girlhood, but we also get to see their families and how their families and their communities engage with them. Because a lot of times when you have a story that's focused on teenagers, whether it be in a book or a TV show or a film, the parents and the adults that are involved in these kids' lives are sometimes just an afterthought. They're sometimes just in the background. They're sometimes just clueless, not really mentioned. Their characters don't really matter. What matters is what's happening with the kids, right? But not here. Here, we get to see that their families, the adults in their lives, the friends they have are all fully present and meaningful and matter deeply, right? Audrey's mom, Audrey's grandmother, Audrey's father, Mabel's family, Natasha's family, Xiomara's mother. Despite the conflict that they have, Xiomara's mother is fully present in her life and, you know, really wants the best for her daughter. And I love that. You know, as a parent of a teenager, I definitely always feel some type of way when I see these books and these movies and these TV shows where you have teenage characters and the mom is like totally clueless that their daughter is going through something. And I don't know, that might be a realistic as well, but I really appreciate these stories where the adults in these teenagers' lives are deeply invested in their lives. So, you know, we talk about the idea of like the stereotypes and the biases that Black girls face, that Black teenage girls faced, how Black teenage girls are often criminalized, demonized, kind of labeled in these like ways that are really unfair and really untrue. The idea of Black girls being fast, which I really don't believe in. The idea of Black girls being like violent or having attitudes, or, you know, all these different things which are totally just based in misogynoir, point blank period. So I think one of the reasons why I wanted to do this video and why I chose these 3 novels specifically is because I want to just give love to the authors for creating these stories. I want to give love to the authors for giving us these characters where we get to see Black girls, Black teenage girls, that are beautiful, that are strong, that are smart, that are funny, and also challenging their parents, challenging the ideas within their communities in ways that are really loving and really respectful. Like, yeah, mom, like I understand what you want from me, but what I want from me is something completely different. So we get to see that. And we get to see them win, and we get to see a story that features them, that has like no domestic abuse and sexual violence and, you know, state violence and extreme poverty and pain. You know, we just get to see like Black girls living in a way that feels natural, in a way that feels good, in a way that feels relatable, in a way that feels just awesome. Just like, you know, not everything needs to be this like over the top, painful, heartbreaking thing where they like rise above. You know, there's this thing of like how the love they experience and the relationships they experience kind of transform them and change them and help them grow. There's that phase between childhood and womanhood that they're holding, and it's just all extremely well done. So that's all I'm gonna say about those three books. Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo, The Sun is Also a Star by Nicola Yoon, and The Stars and the Blackness Between Them by Janata Petrus. Black girls in love. Black girls in love. Black girls being loved. We love to see it.